$100,000 a year to stick around and continue to move this thing forward.
Well, and that's a question I've asked myself, and fundamentally the answer I came to is, if I'm an investor and I'm looking and I'm concerned with profits, how does that contribute to my profits in the short term? Right. And I guess you can tell me, John, but from what I've heard from folks with more experience in private equity, they're looking to buy this company. They're not looking to hold on to it for decades. They're looking to buy it, increase the revenue, cut expenses, and sell it for a profit. And they want a 20% profit on their money is from what I'm hearing. So I don't see that happening. I mean, I think Don recognizes it. I think Don is trying to, I don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but I imagine I've had some conversations with Don. I've been fortunate that he gave me his time. And I've had some conversations, and those were things I mentioned to him. And he's like, he gets it, right? He clearly echoes that. I don't know if he has money or the leeway to do it, right? It's spending money on something that they're not going to see return on for who knows how long, but, and how much money they're going to spend. I mean, the thing I hear from almost every affiliate owner I talk to is bring back the media team and start telling those stories. Why is that not like already done, right? Like, I don't know. I feel for Don because he's had a short runway. And that runway got eaten up by 2 years of the former leadership, I guess. But I mean, I think, yeah, I don't know. I'm not optimistic, put it this way.
So I'm hearing sort of two different pathways. The first is like, your gym doesn't necessarily need this affiliation, and there may be other people who sort of like follow suit, and you guys are having conversations about what is the value of the brand? Do I need it at my gym? Do you need it at your gym? Let's just kind of like have open conversation about what we're getting out of this partnership truly. And then the other path is like, let's all stay within the community. And if there ever was an opportunity for us to be the directional leaders of this, then we can consider that. And so in that respect, when you are really trying to organize people to say like, what if we could buy this? What if we could run it? What if we could influence the way that things go? How would you guys, Frank, as affiliate owners who own this brand, without necessarily the same for-profit goals as the current structure allows for, how would you then provide value to the rest of the affiliates? Or would you just not charge a big affiliate fee and there would be no value really, no expectation of additional value because you have the name and that's kind of it? Because without that for-profit structure, my concern is like, okay, now you guys own it. Now what? Now is everyone still equally as upset because they're not getting anything from the quote unquote owners? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So just to back up a little bit, I think gym owners are having a really hard time because we don't see any value. And then again, I'm not speaking for all gym owners here necessarily, but this is what I gather from having a lot of conversations and partly how I feel. We really question what we're getting for the money we're spending. And we have concerns about how the company is run. We have concerns about the brand that aren't being addressed. But we associate CrossFit with the community we love. Why we started a gym was CrossFit and the methodology we love. And we have really, I think a lot of gym owners are really unsure. They want to stay with CrossFit, but headquarters is kind of giving them no reason and creating a lot of frustration. And so that's where I think the choice is really like, do we de-affiliate or not be part of this community we love and endorse the methodology we love and continue have to do all the remarketing of renaming our business? Or do we figure out a way to exert leverage on HQ to ensure those things are done? And probably the easiest way I see to exert leverage is just to buy the company, at least make an offer. And if the owners are having a hard enough time figuring out how to make it profitable, that they have to raise affiliate fees, I suspect they may be looking to unload it. I think it's a great expression that I think originated with Greg, that they thought they were buying a Pirates of the Caribbean amusement park ride and they were buying a pirate ship, and they got on board and realized it was a pirate ship, and now they're going, oh, and the pirates are not happy with the new captain, if you will, right? So I think So that kind of, I think, covers maybe the alternative paths. In terms of what would it look like, again, I think it's up for affiliates to decide, and I want to foster a conversation. It's certainly not my decision, or it's not up to me. I want it to be a collective decision as best it can be when you're talking about 12,000 potential affiliates. But there is a structure in certain states. I've done some research on this. It's called a benefit corporation, and it's a corporation, and actually Patagonia, I believe, is a benefit corporation. It's a corporation where the corporate structure is such that profits for shareholders is kind of the fiduciary responsibility of the C-suite, and it kind of has to come first. With a benefit corporation, you can, and I'm still learning about this, so I may be getting some of it wrong, but as I understand it, in the charter, you can define stakeholders, and the benefit of those stakeholders kind of gets placed before profits. And so the C-suite does not have a fiduciary responsibility to first return profits. It has a fiduciary a responsibility to benefit the stakeholders in the way that the charter specifies. John, do you know anything about this based on your background? I know it's a niche thing.
It's not my forte.
Okay, fair.
To say the least.
Okay, if you had some information, I would love to hear it. Just because, like I said, I'm still researching it. But some structure like that. That we've also floated the idea of a nonprofit as a way to get rid of the profit motive. Ultimately, I think affiliate owners know best how our fee should be spent, and the majority of the revenue for HQ is coming from affiliate owners. So shouldn't affiliate owners just be in charge of deciding how CrossFit spends its money? It just seems to make sense to me. And the way the mission of CrossFit should be for affiliates to be successful and make money, and the way that HQ would ultimately increase its revenue would be build the brand up where there is a wait list at every gym. And now we need more affiliates just to service the number of people. And as the number of affiliates grow, there grows your revenue for CrossFit HQ. I think the private equity as an alternative, right, basically said, like, we don't want to spend the time or the money to do all that. So we're just going to raise affiliate fees on the existing affiliates. And we're basically going to call their bluff. We're going to hope that they don't de-affiliate. And I'm sure they know some portion will, but I don't know. Again, I'm speculating, but.
Well, I think a lot of this is contingent on whether private equity is willing to sell. I mean, that's the one thing we haven't mentioned here. I mean, I don't know a ton about Berkshire, but I've studied them a little, and they don't seem to be a company that's quick to sell. So I don't get the sense from looking at their past history or even hearing from Don that they're looking to flip this thing in a couple of years. Like, I feel like they're in it for longer than most of us think. I could be completely wrong on that. I'm speculating. This is just an opinion. Everything you're discussing is they'd have to be willing to sell. Like, this isn't a poor company. Like, they can sit on a loss for a while and wait you out. So I kind of wondered.
Yeah, but they want to? Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was just wondering, as I was looking at what you guys were trying to accomplish, is your better move is just trying to organize as in more of a union fashion than actually trying to buy it. Like, the reality is, what the company's worth right now, it'd be a very expensive purchase. Mm-hmm. It would be.
Yeah, I'd love to address the purchase price, but I would say in terms of unionizing, I mean, I think that's certainly an option. But ultimately, I think it creates a contentious relationship, and we're never going to change the fundamental notion that CrossFit is being run for profit. And arguably that's in direct contrast to doing what's best for the affiliates.
Well,
right?
How so? I mean, I work for a for-profit business, and I help a lot of people with a lot of financial needs. Like, how is making a profit anti-productive to CrossFit?
Well, I think that it certainly puts any long-term investment, makes it a difficult decision, or it's going to be a fight, right? Or if CrossFit's, I mean, let's look at some of the decisions that have been made, right? I think Monster Energy is a really good one, the sponsorship there, right? Like, they decided that a way to make money was to take sponsorship money from someone who was counter to the brand. And why did they make that decision? Because it was about dollar signs. Now, I think you could argue that they got enough pushback and they corrected, but like, did you really need to get pushback on that? Did you not know that was how it was going to go? Do you think affiliates ever would have made that decision if we were running the company?
I think if you saw the dollars behind what that deal could have been, you might have, depending on the needs of the company and where that allocation had to go. Which is this, but that's a perfect. Sorry, John, you say your thing and then come back to me.
Well, I was just going to say, Greg himself has been quoted as saying he would do it. Not necessarily Monster, but like he would take money from everyone as long as he could put it back into CrossFit. So I'm with you. Like I hated the sponsorship, hated it, but I didn't feel that money was going back into affiliates.
I just think that it's a really pure vision that you have, Frank. Like I love the sentiment of being like, shouldn't affiliate owners lead the way for this brand whose sole mission is to make our population healthier and fitter? You guys, as affiliate owners, John, you too, you guys are the direct conduit to providing this service for the populace. So shouldn't you be the leadership in the direction of the brand? Like, it's a wonderful, pure thought. I just think the company is so complex now that it's not that simple anymore. And the only way that I see it working is if all the pillars of the company separate, right? If CrossFit in one silo is affiliates and that leadership comes from people within the community. Beautiful, wonderful. I love it. And then there's the educational pillar of CrossFit that is run by separate people. And maybe it is for profit, maybe it's not. I don't know. It depends on the goals of what's happening with the educational department. And then there's the sport of CrossFit. And I think when all three of those things are together, no, I don't know if it makes sense if it should be run by the affiliate team. Because there's a lot more going on than just what's happening in our gyms every day. But that is absolutely the heart and soul and core of the brand and what it is or what it was. But now it's just so much more that it's not that simple of an outcome, I don't think. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess I would say just my first thought when I hear that is, I don't know if the games, I would like to know how much of our affiliate fees subsidize the games.
A lot.
I think it's,
a lot.
Right. And so you separate those things and arguably maybe they shouldn't be, and maybe separating them is the best way. But I want to go back to a couple other things, right? There were a bunch of things that Greg was doing behind the scenes with our money that I don't ever see, and I don't ever see private equity ownership doing. One of them was early on, people were walking into CrossFit gyms and yelling rhabdo and suing the gym, right? And the insurance companies, it was a couple $10,000, and the insurance companies were settling, and then they were dropping the gyms. And Greg formed RRG, right? And he said, we're going to fight this. He spent millions of dollars fighting one lawsuit that was for like $10,000. And everyone told him he was crazy, but it saved how many CrossFit gyms from going out of business, right? That doesn't make sense to a for-profit when you're putting profit first. Now, Greg made money. It wasn't not for profit. But the mission always came first, and affiliates always came first when he was running the show. Another one is the NSCA lawsuit, right? That was a fight that we should have been fighting on principle. And they settled, not only did they settle it, but they settled it and said, we can't talk about it. And now there's licensure bill in California that is trying to get passed. Someone is trying to pass it. And it's going to make CrossFit certifications invalid. Every CrossFit gym will have to go out. All the coaches will have to go out and get a different certification. And it's unclear who's behind it. But Greg fought that battle in multiple other states when he was in charge, and he shut that down. And I don't think affiliates understand that or appreciate that. And that is not something, I mean, Dave Castro recently came up on his weekend review, and he said they're keeping an eye on it. Well, what does that mean? You need to be fighting it. You're going to shut down every CrossFit gym in California and you're not fighting it. But it doesn't turn into profits for them, especially if they're looking to, I mean, again, we don't know the timeline, but I suspect they're looking to unload CrossFit. And I think at a minimum, we need to be organized if that's the case. But I also think there's a case to be made that when you're running it for profit, the decisions that you're going to make are very different from when you're being run by as a benefit corporation for the benefit of your stakeholders.
So I don't disagree with that. But when Greg was running it, he was running it for profit. So you can't necessarily say back then it was totally nonprofit or benefit or whatever, and now it's for profit, so now it's evil. Right? Like it still was the same. And then the other thing I would say is, while I don't disagree with any of the things you have said, because those strides that Greg made when he was running the organization are like absolute pillars to how we've even gotten to where we are today. The reality is, like, none of us know what they spent money on when Greg was running it, what they spent money on when the other C-suite was running it, what they spent money on when these guys are running it. Nobody knows anything. Like, we're all just full of assumptions here, there, and everywhere. Like, what if Greg was, I don't even know, what if he bought a house for every person on the C-suite? Like, we don't fucking know. We'll never know. And so there's so many assumptions in the, like, that was the golden age, or Dave said that they're keeping an eye on it, but he didn't use the word fighting. And so what does that mean? Like, we don't know, and we never have, and we never will. So it just feels like a lot of unknown always.
But you're making my arguments for me, right?
Yeah.
So one of the other things I hear from gym owners is better communication and transparency about how our money's being spent.
Fair.
Great. Unfortunately, it didn't happen under Greg, but I can guarantee you it won't happen under private equity. I asked my affiliate rep, I said, I would love to know how our money is being spent. She said, it will never happen. They're not.
No, that's interesting. Yeah.
That's what would happen if affiliates ran it. At least if I was one of the affiliates on the board, that's what I would push for. Transparency. And as a board of affiliate owners, why wouldn't you? Right? Why would you tell everybody exactly how their money is being spent and say, do you think we should be spending it this way? That's not going to happen. And oh, by the way, they're also going to take a nice big profit chunk out of that money that you're paying.
That's fair. I think that argument, I totally can get.
And I guess I would say Greg largely ran it how I'm suggesting we run it, as a benefit corporation, where you have the stakeholders first. I think it would be hard to find a decision that Greg made that did not have affiliates first in that decision, right? And there were a lot of decisions that were very counter to his financial. He could have made a lot more money by not fighting some of those fights, but he did it on principle. He did it to protect affiliates. He knew affiliates were CrossFit. He said many times, the CrossFit is not a name, it's a methodology, but honestly, the affiliate owners are the magic, right? And so I think Greg got it. He largely ran it how I wanted to see it run, as a benefit corporation.
But how do we know that? Like, do we know how much he was making? Do we know how much the C-suite was making when that was happening? Is that public? I haven't seen it, and I'm not being like, what was it? I'm legitimately asking, like, is that information that we know?
No, and I don't know if we ever will. But I do know, like I said, that there were multiple decisions that I can point to. He spent a lot of money fighting for affiliates that he could have let slide, right?
I see.
Licensing